Yeah, so this was the biggest, most difficult to explain moment in the movie, and maybe if the bad people, whoever they were experimenting on this F14 and had souped it up, and they put some rocket assist on there. It was very similar to.
I like it. I like where we're going here. I like this. Yeah. What's up, you scholars of enlightenment? Dr. Sam Gregson here again. I hope you've had a phenomenal week and you have a fantastic weekend in store. Today, we're going to continue our breakdown of the science behind the current blockbuster film, Top Gun Maverick. Now, if you didn't catch part 1 of this series, where we discussed hypersonic technology and the Dark Star project, or indeed part number 2, where we broke down the pretty much impossible physics of the Top Gun Maverick mission proper, please feel free to stop, check out those links, they'll be down in the description, and get yourself caught up. But you don't need to understand this video. Today, I will again be joined by aviation guru Professor Nick Colosimo and sensor expert Dr. Ramsey Faragher, as we break down 5th generation fighters and the physics-defying stolen F-14 of Top Gun Maverick. So, enjoy. So the final bit of the film, again, spoilers, is that Maverick gets shot down trying to defend Rooster, who is Goose's son. And then Rooster returns to defend Maverick and is shot down in turn. And they both meet up in the backwoods of Russia, quote unquote, and they have to escape. Now, the way they decide to escape is a nice callback to the previous film, that Maverick decides to steal an F-14, which these adversaries seem to be keeping on their airfield for some reason, some sort of museum piece.
Museum piece, yeah.
Which I think they refer to it as a museum piece. So the thing with this is they decide to the Tomahawk strike at the start of the mission took out the runways, so they only have this very short taxiway to take off on, which looks like 50 to 100 meters max, and yet Maverick seems to get this F-14 to take off with no problem. Ramsey, you had a few issues with this. Would this be possible? Maverick is good, but can he? Is he breaking some physics here? Maybe.
So, of course, there's the interesting detail that these aircraft are normally catapult launched off of very short runways on aircraft carriers, which is why.
So you see that
they can get off
duff when they go off the
short. Yeah. They literally get hooked onto a big steam or electrical catapult, and they get accelerated much greater than their jet can accelerate them in the first run. So this is a big not possible for me, just from my memory at least of what that scene was like. The taxiway was too damaged, and the object, the building or whatever at the end, was way too close for this thing to possibly get up to speed and then climb over it. So there must be an aircraft that's got the record for the shortest takeoff. I mean, the Typhoon can pretty much take off, pull vertical, and just climb vertical straight off the runway, can't it, Nick? But it probably needs a bit more than 150 meters.
I think you've got a minimum takeoff distance here of 300, nearly 400 meters you've got as a minimum, and that doesn't look like 400 meters to
the F-14.
No.
Is that the one
for the F-14? Yeah. And about 15 to 20 knots on takeoff you've put. So yeah, with the height of the building, the quality of the taxiway, we're pretty much saying no on this one, I think.
Yeah, so I think that, a US carrier deck is probably what in total maybe 1,000 feet long, but there's 300 feet of that which is used for takeoff, right, with the catapult, which will probably be a steam powered catapult, which as Ramsey says, fires the aircraft off and gives it that extra force and thus acceleration that it needs to get up to flight speed, right? So it didn't, and I think that, the field takeoff distance, I was looking this up the other day for an F-14, is around about 2,400 feet, right? So, and there doesn't look like there's 2,400 feet there. Just, there might be a few hundred feet. And so, this was the biggest, most difficult to explain moment in the movie. And, maybe if you know, if the bad people, whoever they were experimenting on this F14 and had souped it up, and they put some rocket assist on there. You know, it was very similar to.
I like it. I like where we're going here. I like this.
Yeah. So there was the C. Oh yes, I think Hercules. It was a C-130 Hercules. Which had a kind of a rocket launch and rocket landing approach as well. So I think that was all about. They wanted to land the aeroplane into a football stadium, pick up a load of people and take off out, right? So and I can't remember the name of the program now, but that was rocket assist. So you can imagine a contrived way in which you could achieve it, and so maybe there was a bit of MacGyver moment on behalf of Mav, who thought, you know what, we need to hotwire the flux capacitor or something, and that's how we're going to get out of here.
They should have had Maverick gleefully heading for the F-14 and Rooster just tapping him on the shoulder and pointing at the Harrier sitting in the other, because he could have easily used the Harrier to get out of this situation, assuming it was fueled.
Absolutely,
that would have been a big.
We're gonna need an F-14 plus at least to
rocket assisted
to be able to take off. So that's no good. The last thing that I wanted to discuss, because we've taken up a lot of time, is they go to try and escape, and they're pursued by what we're told are 5th generation fighter aircraft. So there's a lot made of this during the film, that the Russians / Iranians / Chinese, whoever we're fighting, have these 5th generation fighters, and the F-18s are now no longer the power in the sky. The US doesn't have the technological advantage. The technological advantage lies with these 5th generation fighters. Excuse me, Nick. What are we talking about with this? These 5th generation fighters. What were the planes in the film, and what are their capabilities? These kind of things.
Well, so I don't put much credence to the whole 4th, 5th, 6th generation thing. I think it's partly almost marketing. When somebody comes out with a new aircraft and they say, it's the generation after the last one, right? And therefore it's better because this is 5
like
and you've got 4, right?
Xbox One or PlayStation
absolutely.
3, 4,
definitely much more expensive.
I think the main thing is that that perhaps sets different generations of aircraft apart, is the use of signature control, right? So they're shaped in a particular way, they use particular materials in order to keep down the radar cross section, the infrared signature, and so on, right? And that's the major change, because survivability in that sense has focused in on not being observed, right? And if you're not being observed, you're more survivable, and you can also be more lethal, right? You can see the adversary before they see you and shoot them before they shoot you, right? So, that is perhaps typical with what people are calling 5th generation fighters, right? And then the generation after that, a 6th generation fighter, perhaps provides a different balance to achieve survivability and lethality, bringing in more electronic type approaches, electronic attack, laser directed energy weapons, and a whole range of things, right? And so, but the reality is that the aircraft can be upgraded, right? They can be fitted with new things. Now, you aren't going to turn an F-14 into a low signature aircraft anytime soon, right? But there are certain things that you might be able to do in order to maintain survivability for particular mission types, right? And so, the whole 4th, 5th, 6th generation, it's a lot grayer. There's a lot of marketing speaking, all of that, and so I don't add too much value into it all, because it all depends upon what type of mission you're doing, and there's lots of different types of mission you're doing, and different things have different advantages. You might just want a faster airplane for some, you might want a more maneuverable for others, right? And or you might want a better sensor suite on another day, right? So
because in the film they make a big deal of this, that it seems to be this thing can kind of do everything. It sort of stalls in the air and spins over backwards and gets behind him. It seems to be faster, more maneuverable, has better weapons or better sensors, everything. So that's a little bit of hyperbole, is it, that this is just upgraded in every way relative to the F-18 or the F-14?
Well, when people talk about super maneuverability, people talk about super cruise, and so on. So, what they're saying is this is stealthy, it's super maneuverable, and, it can fly very efficiently at a high Mach number as well, right? So, you get a longer distance out at speed, so you can cover long range and you can do so quickly, right? And so, all these things are from what we know about, the F57, the Felon, that's probably going to be true to some extent, right? But
so this is the one we see in the film, right? The Su-57 Russian stealth fighter.
Yeah, absolutely. I know only the Russians have got them, and they haven't got many, right? So that's the other thing with air combat. It's not just about your capability; it's about your capacity, the numbers you've got to operate, and they haven't got an awful lot of these things. They are. The Russians are active in terms of attempting to sell them to a few countries, but so far, I think the Russians are the only operator.
Yeah, it's got vectored thrust, which was its big fancy thing when it came out many years ago, and sure enough, was showing off at air shows in the same kind of way that we've seen in the Top Gun Maverick film.
What does that? And this is definitely something that's. What's vectored thrust?
Sorry, so the exhaust nozzles at the back of the aircraft can actually point in funky directions, regardless of what the wings and the ailerons and stuff are doing. And so you can choose to point your engines in funny directions, and it means the aircraft can tumble.
And that's maybe why it does really the weird thing that it does.
The bit where they actually are shocked that I can't remember. They fire a missile at it.
So he fires a missile at it, and it just sort of flips over and spins and goes away. Yeah.
Which is realistic, but this is a common theme in Top Gun, right? He did it loads in this film, and it was the famous maneuver from the first film. I'll put the brakes on and I'll fly right by, right? Yeah. So we used this to great effect in the Falklands. It was called Viffing and was actually sort of invented by Harrier pilots. So the Harrier pilots would let the Argentinian pilots come in behind them, and then would turn their engines down and hop up. And the Argentinians would sail on past and be trying to then maneuver. And the Harriers could launch a sidewinder as the thing skimmed underneath them. And the Falklands was a few years before Top Gun 1. And I don't know if it's purely coincidental or if it was literally inspired, but this was a very famous, important maneuver in the Falklands conflict. And the interesting thing about it, though, is it's very much kind of last resorty in the sense that it either succeeds and you win, or you have significantly slowed down your airframe. You're now not maneuverable. You have to accelerate back up again. And you might have dodged the first missile, but you're not dodging the second missile. It's kind of the thing that these maneuvers are really risky.
It's the all-in maneuver.
Well, the interesting thing for me about this take on like the fifth generation fighter, the stealth, but like let's stay away from them and stuff, is that in many ways, the whole point of that concept is supposed to be that the fifth generation fighter has killed you and you didn't even know you were in the airspace with them, that they are outside your radar envelope. You were inside their passive sensing envelopes and they got you. But in the film, these amazing fifth generation fighters come and sit right next to the threat instead of like lobbing munitions at it from dozens of kilometers away. So but it's a film, right? And they want to do these really close shots because they're cool.
And their sensors seem a bit weird, Ramsey. This is something you noticed. So he dives down to the deck to try and get away from this fifth generation fighter. And he says this will confuse its targeting system. So it seems that the targeting systems that they have, and Nick sort of alluded to this earlier, they seem to be using some sort of visual targeting system that's then getting confused by canyons and glare from the river and whatever might be, rocks nearby and stuff going on. Rather than keying in, you'd imagine that it would have multiple sensors key into the heat of the F14 or the radar signature, rather than just it's trying to look at it and, I can't see because it's down low in the ground rather than against a blue sky. It seems
exactly. I thought this was a convenient plot point again, like the GPS jamming excuse earlier on, but it's I don't know enough about exactly what's on those Russian aircraft, obviously, but it should be a sensor fusion based approach whereby the massive thumping IR coming out the back of that ancient F14.
Maybe because it's so old, they just don't expect.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, Nick, is this alluding to bits you were talking about before about the challenges of AI for stuff and how you might be able to use it?
I think so. So what it depends upon the sensor, right? It depends upon what the sensor is and the sensor suite that they were using, right? But even in the infrared, right, there will be some self-emission from the surface environment, because everything that has temperature emits radiation, and it emits it according to this kind of black body curve, the Planck curve, as the physicists will call it, right? Yeah. So everything is kind of emitting, but there is this like T to the 4 relationship, right? So if you remember kind of school physics, S is sigma T equals sigma T to the 4.
Yeah, Stefan's law or something, I think.
That's Stefan's law, absolutely, yeah. And so, you only need to move your temperature up by a little bit, and you've just got a massive increase in your radiation, right? So, against that ground environment, that aircraft is probably going to be standing out quite a bit. So if it's infrared, then that. If it's radar, maybe they were using radar solutions. There's a lot of ground clutter in there, and and maybe that could contribute. But as Ramsey says, these days, you would be fusing multiple sensor outputs together. You'll be utilizing things like machine learning to help with that fusion and to maintain track on things. These are all the sorts of things which are eminently doable, today.
And then the final thing is, of course, Ramsey, by the end, he's shot down 5 planes. So he is a fighter ace like yourself.
Yeah, that's been, I'm pretty sure since World War One. I'm not sure if it's older than World War One. Yes, I shall join you in the final moments, Sam. Put my glasses back on. Yeah, exactly. 5 kills and you're an ace, which was very easy. Sadly, in some senses, very easy in like World War One and World War Two. But there are very, very few aces around today, and so certainly Western. And so it would have been a big deal indeed, as they made out, for it to be that Maverick would have become an ace finally towards the end of his career.
Very, very nice end to that. Nick, any comment on that?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, there's not an awful lot of real air combat that goes on these days, because with all weapon systems, they're really there as a deterrent, right? They're there to kind of give the adversary a second thought, to dissuade and persuade an adversary, away from or to particular courses of action, and that's what they're really there for. But at the end of the day, if it does come to it, they've got to work, right? Because otherwise, it's not a credible deterrent, is it? So, overall, though, I love the film. I thought it was great. I put the slightly dodgy physics in places out of my mind and suspend the disbelief, and I'm glad they did it. I'm just so glad they did it this way, right? Loads of drones flying over the top, and satellites going over and that kind of stuff. It would have been like, yeah, that seems realistic. They're boring.
They kind of, I think they call it, what do they call it in the films? Hung a lantern on it, I think they say. So the thing with Ed Harris at the start, where he's saying, look, this would be all drones and unmanned and blah, 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 is sort of giving a nod to that, of people saying, I would expect this mission to have been done with drones and blah, blah, blah. That this is kind of some of the way we might be moving, but we still need these humans to be involved. So they sort of acknowledge that is what a lot of people might think, but then they go ahead with it anyway, which is obviously more exciting for the audience. And like you say, I'm really glad they did it that way. I really enjoyed the film. The physics was off in some places, but good enough to, like you say, suspend your disbelief for the period of the film and still have a very enjoyable experience. So, as pedantic as I am, and as much as a pedant as I am, I can let it go. Ramsey?
Yeah, I loved it. I'm going to see it again for sure. In fact, I started watching the other one, the old one, last night, and picked up actually. I don't know if you guys picked up who Penny Benjamin actually is. you know, the love interest in the new one.
I don't know
if you remember. It's a real like tiny detail nod back. So do you remember when they come back at the very beginning of the film and they get their bollocking for
buzzing the tower or whatever it is,
buzzing the tower, and he gets told off for doing something like 5 flybys over towers and 1 over an admiral's daughter.
Oh,
and
she's
Goose
the
leads
admiral's
in and
daughter.
goes, "Was that Penny Benjamin?"
Really?
And I was like, Penny Benjamin!
Wow, I did not spot that at all.
Yeah, that was a real secret.
That's super.
Wow.
So Penny Benjamin was the admiral's daughter that he went ballistic with, according to Top Gun 1.
Nicely spotted. I can't think of a better place to finish than that. Ramsey, I know you had a little game, but I think we're probably going to do that another time, right? Is that
spoiler alert? The answer to every question was Maverick. Let's not bother with it.
to most of the questions in this film. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really, really appreciate it. All the links to both the speakers today are going to be down in the description. I'll put all the links for the stuff that you need to know about that we've talked about today down in the description as well. If you have any of those similarities to Star Wars, pop them down below. If you have anything else that you want to understand the science of, pop that below. But I hope you really enjoyed it. And I think, Ramsey, we're probably going to thrash some more films if this goes well and people enjoy it.
Yeah, this was fun. Let's ruin films for more people in the future.
Nick, you up for that? Ruining some more films in the future if you have a little.
Well, maybe not ruining them, but maybe maybe bringing in some educational aspects to all of this. Of course, all of our maths might actually be wrong, so there is a risk of that. Always happy to be peer reviewed down in the comment section as well. Yeah, guys. Thank you very much again. Have a lovely rest of the evening, and catch you both again soon.
Cheers, Sam. Cheers, Nick.
Bye now.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Bye.
I want to know what you think, because you're the scholars of enlightenment that I do this for. So please take a moment, if you wish, to let me know down in the comment section. And if you like this video, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, setting up notifications, and sharing this video more widely. I can't tell you how much these simple actions help me out and how much I'd appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being scientific. Thanks for being bad.